tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging: apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me. This is our weekend edition, and that is certainly an opportunity to hear from our good friend Kelly Shackelford, who is the founder of First Liberty Institute and an individual that has really been involved in a case before the Supreme Court and a variety of other cases, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But it's also the last day of our Truth Team Week. And so if you have been waiting to the last day, and I know many of our listeners are procrastinators, and you've waited to the last day to put us over the top, now's your day to call 800-347-5151 or go to pointofview.net. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Of course, Brad Fisk will be joining us, but Kelly Shackelford in studio. And Kelly, you know, since this week started out with it was really kind of April Fool's. And when I get some of these things from him, I'm sure you're trying to prank me, because when I first read this and say that they censored reading Charlie Brown's Christmas, I'm going, this has to be a prank. And then, of course, I see Todd Starnes writes about it, and then I see your letter and go, here we go again. Things you would never have predicted.
No, I challenge all the listeners to, when they get to a computer somewhere, go and look at this. Go to pointofview.net and look on the link that takes to the story, like Todd Starnes, because we've got the picture.
Yes.
Of the villains.
The villains.
These villains.
I know.
These elderly women who, if people don't know what we're talking about.
I'll hold it up here so that while you're talking, they can see it. Yeah.
It just, you look at the picture and you go, what?
No,
you did what to these women? I mean, you people are, I don't know. It's just, anyway, what happened is these are women who live in a senior living facility.
Such nice ladies.
And it's a government senior living facility, okay? Right. This is the government. And preschool kids were brought in from the government that runs this facility, also runs a preschool.
Yeah.
They brought kids in, and they're having them read to the kids. And they're reading to the kids, and they're reading Christmas stories and all this stuff. And they say, and one of them says, this is the first incident, one of them says, do you even know the story of what Christmas is about? And immediately the government officials are, no, you're not allowed to talk about that.
Don't go there, Wilma. Yeah.
Now I want people to realize this. This is these women's home. The government is telling them they can't say something in their own home, okay? Which is just mind-blowing, okay? And then they get to one of the others, and she's reading the Charlie Brown Christmas story. But then they get to the part about Linus.
Yeah.
And again, government comes in and stops. So the government is telling senior citizens that they're not allowed to say things in their own home if it's religious, because there's children around, like it's pornography or something. Yeah. So we have informed the government that they've got a problem, that they need to apologize to these women, and that this kind of censorship in their home needs to stop.
And I might just mention that we do have the story from First Liberty. Of course, there's also one by Todd Starnes. You can see all of the links there. Of course, you can go to First Liberty. Just click on Kelly's picture. It will take you there. But we always like to put them on ours because there's so much now on First Liberty, sometimes navigating it, so we try to make it real easy. But Keisha Russell was on earlier in the week. We were talking about Chick-fil-A, but this is one where she's also been talking about there's nothing quite like a government Grinch crushing the spirit of Christmas. Our clients were simply exercising their constitutionally protected rights by reading a much-beloved Christmas story to children when they were silenced. And so she says that this particular organization, the Memorial Health Center, which goes by KMHC, needs to ensure that the rights of its residents are protected and the issue an apology. Of course, this happened a while ago, but it's one of the reasons why I'd like to go back and recognize this, because as we say, sometimes people have their rights trampled on and they don't know that they even have a legal recourse. So that's why they finally came to you.
That's right. And let me point out something here. I mean, there's been a case on what teachers can teach at school and about Christmas, for instance. And what the case said is, if you're not teaching the historical and religious basis for these holidays that are being celebrated, you're really not doing a very good job of education.
Yes.
So not only was it, okay for these women who aren't government officials, the government could even go in and tell the kids, here's why people celebrate Christmas. Here's why people celebrate Hanukkah. That's supposed to be basic education. So it's even worse that the government could say this, but yet they won't allow these two women in their own senior living facility to say, do you know what the basis of Christmas is and why people celebrate that? I mean, the idea that has to be censored. And again, I just look at the picture of these two women and say,
Wilma Wells and Joan Wilson. And Wilma's the one that's trying to explain what Christmas is. And the government official, I just love those lines there because you've got the whole dialogue there. We won't go there, Wilma. And Wilma is probably no taller than my own wife. I mean, she's just as big as a minute. And so Wilma is really a threat here because she's going to talk
dangerous.
about, oh boy. And then Joan, who's just a little bit taller, then is, of course, reading the Charlie Brown on Christmas. And then they go nuts again. So these poor ladies, are just, and I love what's behind it too. It says, rejoice in the Lord behind them. So, so at least I guess they're allowed to keep that up, not anything else. Right?
Yeah, for now.
For now. I mean, it just is so interesting. And as you have talked about, Kelly, before we take a break, this happens time and time again in some of these facilities, whether it's just down the road here in the Dallas area for our Dallas listeners where we've had one of those, or whether it's where you have that picture, which still, you can't make this stuff up. It says you can't play any kind of Christian music on the piano.
Yeah, the Donna Dunbar case.
Every one of these cases that we are dealing with, just eye-rolling kind of stories, but they just seem to happen all the time.
Well, the Ken Hauge case we've got right now as well, he was told he would be evicted from his senior living facility if he held a Bible study in his own apartment.
There you go, yeah.
And, I mean, this is how we've got a number of these all across the country. This is really important because a lot of these people can't leave. Yes. I mean,
there's a situation in which they really can't. Yes,
they're in a wheelchair. They can't go out.
Memory care, whatever's going on.
If you won't allow them to have any place they can go for a Bible study or anything, I mean, think of it. If they put yourself in that situation, you can't leave, and yet they will refuse to allow you to access any religious service, any religious. I mean, that's just outrageous. But this is what we're fighting over. These cases that we're fighting right now, a number of them are going to decide, hopefully, very clearly what happens all over the country in all these senior living facilities, and we've got to win these cases.
And one of the things I think is kind of interesting is I'm going to come back and talk about this greatest a list that you have here of all the cases that you've been fighting, the ones that you've won, and all the rest. But they tend to surface in two areas. One, we'll talk about the military cases, and the other, the senior living cases. And, of course, if I had a third, since I mentioned Keisha's name, all the synagogues and things, too. I mean, they surface almost in clusters, and so that's certainly something we want to talk about. Let me take a break, but when we come back, we want to get into another issue because, of course, Kelly Shackelford and First Liberty have been involved with the Chick-fil-A, well, really, if you will, the controversy, not just in San Antonio, but in Buffalo. And we'll talk about some of that, but also just give you an update because if you are receiving the newsletter from First Liberty, which I got mine in the new mail just yesterday, it was perfect. Got all these list of victories here, which is so good, and we talk about those, but then it talks about the ones we're still fighting, and they do tend to cluster in a couple of areas, so we're going to be talking about that as well. But as we go to a break, that would also be a great time for you if you have been waiting all week to support this ministry. We do depend upon you to join with us at the Truth Team, and you can do so by going to the website, pointofview.net. We'll be right back.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
Lots of controversial ideas get promoted during election season. We are getting our share of them this time. Eliminate the Electoral College, regulate campaign speech, and end the filibuster, just a few. It occurred to me that the best way to respond to many of these proposals is to remind Americans that our country is a republic, not a democracy. The framers recognized that this country would be quite diverse. They wanted to create a government that would allow different viewpoints to get a hearing. They didn't want the president merely to be elected by the larger populations in the cities like Boston and New York. That is why we have an electoral college. States with small populations feared that states with large populations would always select their candidate. The electoral college forces candidates to campaign in the entire country, not just in population areas. That also explains why we have a House of Representatives elected by voters every 2 years, but regardless of its size, each state gets 2 U.S. senators who were selected by the state legislatures every 6 years and are now elected by the popular vote. We have a Bill of Rights in the Constitution to protect Americans, especially minorities, from a democracy where the majority could take away fundamental rights from a minority. We enjoy freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to bear arms, and freedom from unlawful search and seizure. Even the idea of a filibuster in the U.S. Senate was implemented so that the majority would be forced to hear the arguments from the minority before passing important legislation. The filibuster may have been abused, but the concept once again illustrates our constitutional order. Unfortunately, many of these controversial ideas are being proposed today by political candidates who went to law school and should know better. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For a free copy of Kerby's booklet, A Biblical View on Socialism, go to viewpoints.info/socialism. That's viewpoints.info/socialism. Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Hey, greetings, everyone. This is Lieutenant Colonel retired Alan West, former member of the 112th Congress. I just want to take a few moments to tell you why it's so important that you support Kerby and what he's doing here with Point of View Ministries and all the great people they have here on this team. This is truly an intersection of the culture. It is truly a place where you can have that open discussion about politics, your faith, and all the things that are affecting our country with the current issues, but it is always from a biblical perspective. And I think that's what makes Point of View Ministries, Point of View Radio, and what Kerby brings in his analysis and his assessment so very important. So please continue to support Point of View Ministries, Point of View Radio. What a great ministry, what a great man, what a great team that you have here at Point of View Ministries and Point of View Radio. Make sure that you support them.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Colonel Alan West was on the program with us earlier in the week, and at one point I saw him stand up, hand his credit card to someone and say, I want to make sure that I'm part of the Truth Team as well. Of course, he's done that before, but I just really appreciate the fact that he not only comes and sits in both as a host and a guest host and a roundtable discussion, but also as one of those Truth Team members. Kelly Shackelford with me, and I might just mention that in the next hour, of course, we're going to get into all the national issues as well. And this one, Kelly started out as a local issue in San Antonio and sort of became national because now not only do you have San Antonio Airport saying, you know, we don't want Chick-fil-A, but even more recently, one of the assemblymen in the state of New York says, we don't want Chick-fil-A at the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority or the Buffalo Airport. And all of it has to do with the fact that a couple of years ago in Denver, they were saying we don't want Chick-fil-A because they're sort of anti-LGBT, which is ludicrous, given the fact that anybody of any religion, any sexual orientation can get Chick-fil-A. But the argument is some people said some things about traditional marriage, and that was enough. But the one in San Antonio really makes me kind of roll my eyes a little bit, because not only did they say, well, we see them as not supportive of the LGBT agenda, but also they send money to, are you ready for this? Fellowship of Christian Athletes
Yes.
and the Salvation Army. Kelly, you and I say this sometimes. You just really can't make this up. This is unbelievable.
Well,
Talk
and
about
it's especially odious. I mean, it's something that really should be considered. Number one, it's unconstitutional, but it should be considered really hideous. Because I mean, what are they saying? What are they doing here in San Antonio? They're saying we're building an airport, and we're not going to allow this company to do business in our airport. On what basis? Well, is it on something that the company has ever done? The company? No, it's not that. It's that the people who own the company have a foundation and they give to Christian causes. I mean, that is really creepy.
Yes.
I mean, if the government can now say, I don't care who you are listening, if the government can now say, no, we're not going to allow you to do business. We're not going to allow you to use the airport. We're not going to allow you to, let's just keep going, because we've found out that you give to, name it.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about losing freedom.
Yes.
You talk about your constitutional rights being gone. That's it. And so look, the problem is Chick-fil-A, if they're the only ones who can bring the lawsuit against this, and evidently, as at least at this point, they're not really
going to.
into that.
Yeah.
So at First Liberty, we were like, well, we've got to figure out something, because this is horrible, and we can't allow this to stand. And I'll just give our staff, points, because they're very creative.
Mm-hmm.
They realize, there's probably some federal money going in here.
I love that. Yes, we're going to talk about that letter in just a minute.
So
that was so well done.
So we said, the Department of Transportation is giving millions of dollars to an airport. How can you give millions of dollars to an airport that's engaging in religious bigotry in an open way like this? So we have, we started and called for Secretary Elaine Chao to open an investigation. Fortunately, we were just the beginning. The Attorney General of the state of Texas, Ken Paxton, has opened an investigation, and we have a number of congressmen and senators who are demanding the same. So hopefully we can get some precedent here that, because what should happen is if they stick with this, then they have violated the terms of their association with the federal government. And any grants they have already received would have to be returned, and certainly any future would have to be denied, because they're engaging in clear religious discrimination.
Let me just mention that we have a lot of resources available to you, and especially since a lot of the individuals listening this hour are in the state of Texas, this would be good just because of the San Antonio experience. But, of course, if you're up in the New York area, certainly you could express your opinion as well to Buffalo. But this one, put together by Hiram Sasser, is 6 pages long. And so I think it would be very helpful. And, Kelly, I like it because, first of all, evidence of pervasive, intentional religious discrimination by members of the City Council of San Antonio. Yes. Then it says the San Antonio Council engaged in unconstitutional religious discrimination, making them ineligible for federal grants. Oh, I do love that one. Mm-hmm. Then the City of San Antonio council members violated local and federal policies requiring non-discrimination, and then a call for investigation. So this is 6 pages long, and you might want to use this if you want to write a letter to the editor, you want to post something on your Facebook page or whatever. But if you're looking for something that might be simple in terms of Texas, this particular article we've also posted, and this is just a story about the fact that Ken Paxton, Attorney General Ken Paxton, who we both know very well, also sent a letter to Elaine Chao at the U.S. Department of Transportation, and it goes into then some of the comments by both First Liberty, by the San Antonio mayor, by some of the council people, and all of the rest. But I thought it was kind of interesting because, Kelly, when you've been in this business for a while, you end up writing about some of the same things. And 5 years ago,
I wrote a piece about Chick-fil-A at the Denver airport. And that's back then when the councilman said, we can do better than this brand in the Denver airport. And so they prevented Chick-fil-A from being in the Denver airport. Well, you and I fly around, and if you've been to the Denver airport, you say, wait a minute, there's a Chick-fil-A. Matter of fact, some of the longest lines are right there. Well, what happened? Well, it turns out that in that particular case, the lawyers with the Denver City Council and the attorneys had a closed-door meeting warning that barring a business on the basis of political prejudice would result in a First Amendment lawsuit that they would most likely lose.
That's right.
And so in that particular case, even though there was a lot of sound and fury, to borrow a phrase, about the Chick-fil-A in Denver, guess what? You can go to Denver this day and buy your Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Yeah, and again, we can't have the government engaging in this type of activity. I don't care if you're left-wing or right-wing or what you're religious or non-religious. If the government can do this, I mean, you have lost your freedoms. I mean, whoever gets control of your local city or your local government can now exclude you, not on the basis of what you or your business has done, but on the basis of who you give money to.
Yes. That's just unbelievable.
What church you give money to, that you give money to groups like, I mean, we're not saying like, this is what they mention, like the Salvation Army. I mean, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. That's what they mention. So it just shows you how completely out of control this would be if the government was allowed to do this. I mean, they could take away all kinds of freedoms from you, all based on your religious beliefs, who you give to. And again, whether that's maybe you're very liberal. Well, you don't think that there'll ever be a city council or a local government entity that's controlled by conservatives?
Yeah.
How'd you like them to go, oh, well, it looks like you've given to, you name it.
Yeah.
Of course,
Earth First or ACLU. Matter of fact, that's a good illustration. ACLU the other day sent a letter to the members of the House of Representatives saying, we encourage you to vote against H.R. 1. Even though it passed, it's going to die in the Senate. And the ACLU said, the problem with this is because it so broadly defines donor that you could give to an organization that's not even political, but then if they mention a politician, then you would be exposed as having given to something, and you didn't have any control at all over that. And so they were recognizing this same danger. When you start persecuting or discriminating against people because of where they gave their donation, and then you release that to the public, then there's harassment, there's bullying, sometimes boycotts. One or two people lost their jobs because of this, too.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look at what happened out in California when they had the election. I mean, you had
Brandon Ike.
Yeah, you had all kinds of things happen out there where people were attacked. So the government shouldn't be in that kind of business, okay? And I'm just always amazed at people that are so short-sighted. They get power. They get government power. Like, let's take this San Antonio. I mean, none of those people want the government doing that type of thing to them.
No.
What hypocrites that they think it's okay to do it to other people. You give the government that power, that spear will be turned on you eventually.
That's all the more reason for you to join with us today. Again, you can go to the website, pointofview.net. Again, 800-347-5151.
Let's be honest. Many people who support socialistic policies believe it's the right thing to help our fellow man. What they fail to see is that the only ones really helped by socialism are politicians. The so-called Great Society began more than 50 years ago, and despite trillions of dollars, there's been no improvement in the poverty rate. If you support socialism to help people, it's not helping. Free markets, largely birthed from economic principles in the Bible, have done more to lift people out of poverty than any other system in history. You have a chance today to do something to really help people by spreading that message when you join the Truth Team. And we have other friends who will match whatever you invest, every dollar doubled up to $15,000. Join now, online at pointofview.net. or by phone 800-347-5151. Time is up at midnight, but you can still make a difference if you take a moment and join the Truth Team right now. Pointofview.net. and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Back once again, and again, we are spending some time talking with First Liberty. Next hour, of course, we're going to get right into a lot more of what we're doing with the Truth Team, but I don't want to ignore those of you listening right now. As you know, from 12 to 1. This has sort of been an addition because the USA Radio Network has said, yes, we'd like to have you on from 12 to 2. Of course, the program goes from 1 to 3. I think eventually maybe we'll pick up that next hour. But this first hour has just been a great opportunity to talk about some of these Texas issues. In fact, Kelly, even this week we talked about the Texas Professional Protection Act with Jonathan Saenz, who used to work with you, and of course you still have a great relationship with. We have had a chance to talk about what's happened in San Antonio and the rest. And so I hope that some of you might consider what you might do even this hour before we begin to really focus on the last 2 hours of this week of our Truth Team to join with us. And you can go to the website, pointofview.net. There's a banner there that says Socialism, Clear and Present Danger. And that is a real great opportunity for you to then click the button that says Join the Truth Team. We have a matching grant today, matching fund of $15,000. That's going to be a hill to climb. And so we'll work on that a little bit later. But, of course, you can also give us a call. We actually have some people in the studios right now and in the call center, 1-800-347-5151.
And Kirby, before you get to the next story, I would just challenge people. I support Point of View, and the reason I do that is because there are things that are going to be talked about on Point of View that you're not going to hear anywhere else. I mean, you're not going to hear it on any TV or radio or unless you're really, really doing the work of sort of collecting all the key stories. You're not going to hear these things. So this is a unique. It's the only way you're going to get this information. And my guess is, if you're listening, that's why. But a lot of people that are listening have never helped support it, which not only is what you should do because you need to pay for the information you're getting a little bit.
Yes.
But one person making a gift helps it reach many, many more. I forget what your numbers were, but I know y'all have studied this before. And so if you give to support Point of View, you're making sure that a lot of other people that would not get this information get it. It goes on more stations, more places all around the country. And that allows the information to get out, the truth to get out to people, so that people can actually be much more informed and connected to what's going on.
And I think First Liberty is a good illustration. Anybody that has listened to this program knows many times we're saying Kelly's going to be on Fox News or something like that. But how many times have I said Kelly's going to be on CNN, MSNBC?
That's right.
Not so much, Yep. And you are fortunate because there's some individuals. This week I even asked Robert Knight, when's the last time you were on MSNBC? He said, I think it's been decades, So you can recognize that some of the guests you hear, some of the conversation you hear here, you only hear here. And it was interesting that even recently talking to somebody, and they said, well, are we really winning these cases? And I'm going, well, if you listen to Point of View, we are. Mm-hmm. Or if you subscribe, and of course I give to First Liberty, and I encourage you to do so as well. You've got all these victories down here. But let's talk about the other part. We have some that you're still fighting.
Right.
What if we lost these cases? What if indeed things go the other direction? What if, for example, you did not have someone who is putting individuals that want to interpret the Constitution rather than read their own values in the Constitution, if that had happened in the presidential election? What's at stake? Because you can lose your liberty pretty quickly, can't you?
Yeah, the letter that you're holding there is the letter we just sent out across the country to all the people who are supporters of First Liberty. And the focus of that letter was on somewhat of a unique and more new thing that I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yes.
We didn't used to have to worry about your job when it came to your faith.
Right.
But this letter is about the fact that this is now a huge issue. And just the page you've got right there shows 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, maybe 15 cases with check marks and all this stuff.
It's really a concern, too.
Those are not like
most
theoretical.
Most people don't know about these.
Those are real cases.
Mm-hmm.
And so the answer to your question is, if we don't do these and we don't win these, then if people are told it's either your faith or your paycheck,
well,
I mean, religious freedom is gone.
Yes.
And so this is really important that we win the right of people, whether you're a Christian who's running your business and you're the employer, or whether you're an employee. In this country, you have religious freedom. And so, again, some of these things are, can you run your business in accordance with your faith? Can you work and be told to violate your faith? Can you, there are laws that protect your religious freedom, and we have to win this because most of your waking hours are spent at work.
Right.
And if you don't have religious freedom there, you don't have it for most of your life. And the reality is, the truth is, you do have it.
Yes.
It's state law. It's federal law. When the government's involved, there's also the Constitution. But I don't care what your situation is. You do have religious freedom, and we've got to fight. Now, the good news is what you were holding there, the letter we sent out, shows we're winning every one of these cases.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have things going like Coach Joe Kennedy, right? I mean, most people have heard about Coach being fired for going to a knee after the football game. We've got to win these cases. And so, anyway, so this kind of circles back to what we started with, which is if you are not involved with this, you need to connect. This is an army that's sort of coming together to make sure we hand over this country to our children and our grandchildren, maybe even in a better state than I mean, people aren't saying that a lot, but I'm telling you, in this area, we've got to win and keep the bad from occurring. But I think we're about to really turn some corners and provide real protections and freedoms. If you're not a part of that, I just think you're crazy. You need to be a part of it. It is really exciting to see what's going on right now. This is historic, a number of these things. You need to be in the battle. And so I would say that for First Liberty, just go to firstliberty.org or go to pointofview.net and click on that. But that's also, you need to be involved with Point of View and making sure other people are coming together. And so that's where you can go to pointofview.net and do the Team 360, or you can just call the pledge line, which is 1-800-347-5151, because Point of View needs to remain on the air, and it needs to be on the air all over the country so that people of faith have one place they can go and really think about the things that are going on in the country from a biblical worldview. There's just not that across the country. I mean, maybe people are conservative. They go to Fox News. Well, that's different. There's a lot of things on Point of View you'll never hear on Fox News.
That's right.
You're certainly not going to hear it on MSNBC or whatever. So it's very unique, and it's really a treasure. And I hope people will, give to that, not only for their own benefit, but also because of all the other people it's going to reach.
Again, if you can join us right now, we'd really like to get a phone call or two, 800-347-5151. And so we do have one or two of you that have called in, but I hope that you will right now, 1-800-347-5151. And Kelly, I'll start the conversation, then we'll pick it up afterwards, but you're talking about the fact that some people in the Christian world say, well, we have freedom of worship. Well, that's not the same as freedom of religion. If they can control your work, they can control you. Or let me talk about one other one we can get back into after the break. If they can control your health care, with Medicare for All right now, I mean, it would drown the country in red ink. There would be a sense in which you would probably have rationing. But if I can control your workplace and I can control your health care, I'll be willing to let you have freedom of worship in the churches, but I still pretty much control you, don't I?
Well, sure you do. And the reality is, once they start taking away your free exercise, your freedom of religion, they're not going to stop at your church doors. We've got proof of that, right? I mean, you can have your religion in your home and your church. Oh, yeah?
Not even that.
No, we just had a case that went to the Supreme Court last year.
Yes.
About whether you can pray in your own home, whether the police can tell you can't. The case I just mentioned earlier with Ken Hauge, who's an 80-year-old retired minister who's in his senior living facility, was told if he holds a Bible study in his apartment, he will be evicted.
Yes.
So when they start coming after your religious freedom in the workplace and the wherever, it's not going to stop. I mean, the enemy doesn't want you to have the ability to worship anywhere. And so you've got to be diligent and you've got to be vigilant right at the beginning. And this is why everybody needs to come together. I mean, we're not as protected if we're all out there alone.
Right.
But if we come together and hook
Become
in
part
together.
of a team, a truth team.
That's exactly right. You get the information. You can share this with other people, and you're building an army. You're a part of building that army. And with one voice, this is a powerful voice in this country. If those who know the Lord will just stand up, we can win. And we are winning a lot of these cases. And again, we talked about this off air, but we are about to see some historic things begin to happen with religious freedom. I believe that in the next few years, we're going to have more religious freedom than we've ever had, any of us who are alive. And it's Why that's occurring, why God's doing that, I don't know. Maybe there's a revival coming. Maybe we're going to need it because it's going to get so hostile. But there are great things happening there, and I would encourage everybody to be a part of that because this is about the future for our grandkids.
We want you to be a part of it right now. 800-347-5151. Can we get 2 phone calls? 800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
There's yet another survey out showing that young people stop going to church after high school as they go off to college or start a job away from home. A 2017 Lifeway research survey shows 66% of Americans stopped attending church on a regular basis for at least a year after turning 18. This is down slightly from 2007, when 70% reported they dropped out of church at that age. Most young people who cease regular attendance are not doing so because they no longer believe in God. The Lifeway survey, which is based on responses from more than 2,000 young Americans who attended Protestant churches, shows that the top reason for young people leaving church was that they moved into college. It's not that most rejected the church, stated Ed Stetzer, former executive director of Lifeway Research. Dr. Stetzer, now head of the Billy Graham Center at Wheaton College, looked at the data and concluded they simply lose track of the church and stop seeing it as important to their lives. Many, hopefully, will return. Another semi-encouraging survey has surfaced. A recent New York Times headline reads, "Support of LGBT rights drops among Republicans under 30." A large survey conducted by the Washington, D.C.-based Public Religion Research Institute shows a majority of this group thinks LGBT Americans should receive special privileges and accommodations, but the percentage is dropping, down 9% since 2015. It was one of the largest and most significant drops that we saw, Robert P. Jones, chief executive of the Institute, told the Times. Family Research Council suggests that young conservatives may have some buyer's remorse about this agenda that wasn't supposed to affect them. In the 3 years since the Obergefell Supreme Court decision that brought us same-sex marriage nationwide, we've seen it used as a weapon against free speech, religious liberty, and privacy. This shows we shouldn't give up on Gen Z. For Point of View, I'm Penna Dexter.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
If I hear it from somewhere else, I don't consider it credible until I hear it from Point of View. There are so few people fighting on the front lines for our freedoms. I think Point of View certainly is one of those. And without ministries like Point of View, we really don't have much hope for the future of our children, our grandchildren. They just really help on a daily basis protect the freedoms that we enjoy today. I can't see a better way to invest in our future than to support Point of View.
Point of View is absolutely valuable to the listeners who want to hear the truth. Today, the media, you just cannot trust them, whether it's print or electronic media, and we depend on Point of View to deliver to us the truth. Without Point of View, I do not know where people would turn to get the message that they need to hear about truth in our culture today. Please consider supporting Point of View.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Back once again, if you would like to join with us, and I hope that you would, if you understand the very significant urgency that we've been talking about this week, We need to hear from you. 800-347-5151. Or, of course, you can visit the website pointofview.net. Brad Fisk has joined us. And just before I get to Brad, let me just mention that we've posted quite a number of articles about First Liberty. I always try to explain First Liberty and Point of View are different organizations, but we have such a kindred spirit that,
That's true.
I've known Kelly for... Matter of fact, I was thinking the first time I met his wife, she was pushing a little child who is now in
25.
law school.
So, you blink, and it's over, right? Well, one blink and the kids.
Yeah, that goes back for years. But we have articles about the reading of Charlie Brown Christmas, about the Texas AG, the Attorney General, and they're concerned about what's happening in the San Antonio airport. Also, the letter to Elaine Chao, and we're going to get to a variety of others in just a minute. One of those you're going to love, Brad, about fast-tracking Trump nominees. But I'm waiting to the national hour. But you've got something in your hand, so tell us what you got.
I do. A couple of thank yous to catch up on. A friend in Plano, Texas, decided they love Point of View so much they're going to give $100 a month. So thank you. They joined the Century Club, and this listener is going to receive the Bible stick of their own. And that has the New Testament loaded on it, fits in the palm of your hand, an MP3 player, and they're going to release 2 Bible sticks to 2 servicemen who are now deployed overseas. They're going to get this special military version of the Bible stick product, and that's very exciting. Also, booklets. Let's talk about booklets for a minute.
Yes.
Because they get those too.
Yeah, well, they certainly do. And again, here are just some of those. We're going to be talking about capitalism and socialism. That's the most recent one. Campus unrest, archaeology. There's just a few. Yesterday, of course, we talked with Benedicta about hers on public education. You get one of each month.
Yep.
And I know you read them. I know your wife reads them.
Yes,
and
that's true.
And that's really something because, some people say, well, that's kind of the issues, but they just love to read those. And I just say, give me 10 minutes. I'll tell you what I think are the most important things about a particular
Very
issue.
digestible, you might say. And there's one more gift, $100, thanks to a friend who's checking in. They're listening online in Illinois.
That's very good.
And so they made their gift online, which is just perfectly fine. 800-347-5151. We are so excited when you share financially with us. We do not take you for granted because we know that money can be very tight for people, and we are grateful, very grateful for every single gift we receive from you. Thanks for standing with us. 800-347-5151. It's your turn. 800-347-5151.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Thank you for your program. I am a team member, and you have opened my eyes to the truth.
You have a wonderful program. I just want to thank you for being there. It's great.
I just wanted to call in and express my gratitude for the awesome work that you guys have done. I've been listening for about 6 months now, and it's just been something I can hardly miss. Thank you for giving me my daily dose of truth with a biblical worldview. I'd just like to encourage anyone listening that's inspired by Point of View to give what they can. I'm a California millennial and Christian, and I now can say I support Point of View.
Thank you. First of all, let me say I listen to y'all's show every day as much as I'm able, and I really appreciate the topics and conversation that y'all bring to the fore.
I listen to y'all's show a great deal, and I really appreciate what you guys do.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
You can join us right now, 800-347-5151. One of our former interns is in the studio there, ready to take some phone calls on the call center. So is my daughter. Matter of fact, if you are fortunate enough, you might even get my wife. And the other day, you were talking about somebody from Illinois, somebody from Indiana got a chance to talk to my wife, and we sent him some material. And so, again, we encourage you, whether you're listening online, whether you're listening on the radio, 1-800-347-5151. And Kelly, we're going to talk more about this in the next hour. But one of the concerns that I think a lot of listeners have had is it just seems to be the slow walking of judicial nominees. And these are qualified individuals. Sometimes the Democrats have slow walked even nominees that were put forward by Barack Obama. So you can see that it isn't that they're rejecting who these individuals are. They're just trying to do anything they can to gum up the works. And so next hour, we're going to talk about some very significant changes, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. I really think what we're about to talk about is going to, the next year, what's going to happen in the next year is going to affect the next 30 to 40 years of our country in a really positive way. And most people have no idea. I kind of feel like I'm watching, it's kind of like the Continental Divide, you know, if it drops on one side, it goes, into one ocean. If it drops on the other, it's totally different. And I'm watching the drop, and I know where it's going, and a lot of people aren't watching. And there's some really good stuff that is about to begin happening, and we'll explain why. It's something to do with the rules. The rule, the 30-hour debate rule, has been so abused.
Yes.
If you looked at the total number of times, I think over the past, it's either 6 or 7 presidents that this rule was used. It was, I think, a total of 28 or 26 or whatever. Past 6 or 7 presidents.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I
Under the first 2 years of Trump, 128 times it was used.
You can see the games being played.
Yeah, and but that's all over. And everything is about to change, and we're going to see some just incredible judges going on to the courts, and we'll talk about that when we have a little more time.
Yeah, we will. And Brad, this is just another reason to support Point of View, because you're getting some positive news. Even you and I were talking about, what about this? I said, well, if people aren't listening to Point of View, they wouldn't even know all these things are happening, and how this Supreme Court precedent that may come down on the Bladensburg case might change the whole way in which they look at the Establishment Clause. One of the other cases that Kelly's dealing might change the way in which they look at the Free Exercise Clause, and all these quality nominees going through. It's already starting to change all sorts of various circuit courts around the country.
It has been a bedrock value of Point of View for really since the show started over 40 years ago, and that is to watch your back, to look at things that are going on and have the courage to talk about things nobody else is talking about. And we love that. Good news, bad news, no news, whatever. We're going to bring it all to you as we see fit. Here's an opportunity for you to do something that you can't do anywhere else within the sound of my voice. Double your money, 100% guaranteed immediately. This is the only place we're offering that. So that person who gave $100 a month a few moments ago becomes $200 a month, because we have a $15,000 challenge on the table right now. And it's an opportunity for you to go, whoa, that's awesome. That means you give $100, it becomes
$200.
Thank you very much. If it's $1 a day, it becomes
$2 a day,
That's
or
right.
$720
for
a
the
year.
That's right.
Wow.
We get to count that whole thing against the match. So we ought to fill up the phone lines here in the next couple of moments. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. You can always give online at pointofview.net. But give us a call. We got phones open right now.
We do have phones open, and Kelly's going to make some really good announcements, so this is the time to call.
Yes!
So you don't miss anything. 1-800-347-5151, or go to the website, pointofview.net. We'll be right back.
Let's be honest. Many people who support socialistic policies believe it's the right thing to help our fellow man. What they fail to see is that the only ones really helped by socialism are politicians. The so-called Great Society began more than 50 years ago, and despite trillions of dollars, there's been no improvement in the poverty rate. If you support socialism to help people, it's not helping. Free markets, largely birthed from economic principles in the Bible, have done more to lift people out of poverty than any other system in history. You have a chance today to do something to really help people by spreading that message when you join the Truth Team. And we have other friends who will match whatever you invest, every dollar doubled up to $15,000. Join now, online at pointofview.net. or by phone 800-347-5151. Time is up at midnight, but you can still make a difference if you take a moment and join the Truth Team right now. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.
I just want to thank you so much for all the wonderful programming you have. You're just absolutely fantastic.
I recently started listening to Point of View, and I really found it interesting because of the different subjects you cover. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate everything that you do in keeping us informed.
Thank you, Kerby, for everything that you have been doing. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, advocating for the Word of God. Thank you so much.
Point of view, I think, is absolutely necessary because it's a Christian perspective, a biblical worldview perspective, and receive very current, up-to-date information about what is really going on, week to week in our culture, which is changing so rapidly, and yet it's morally sliding backwards.
Yeah, I'm just, first of all, I think y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it.
Point of View Radio Talk Show.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging: apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me. It is our weekend edition, and this is a roundtable where we're going to look at a number of different issues. And, of course, Kelly Shackelford with us here. And you got to remember that Monday was April Fool's. So every once in a while, I wonder if Kelly's going to prank me, because this was one where I heard about it. I said, this just can't possibly be true. But these two elderly women were in trouble because they, first of all, wanted to tell these young students about what Christmas is all about, but were prevented from doing so. And then this other woman just was reading the Charlie Brown Christmas, but by the time they got to Linus, they said, you cannot do this. And if you want to understand, these are the criminals here, if you want to see what they look like. These are two individuals that we're going to talk about, Wilma Wells and Joan Wilson. And this one I'm showing, which is on our website by Todd Starnes, or else you can see the First Liberty one, which also gets into this issue. And Kelly, unfortunately, this is not a prank. It's not an April Fool's joke, but it is a disaster. Talk about it for it.
Yeah, it's part of a bigger trend, which we'll get to. But this case is about, again, this is a government-run senior living facility. Okay, this is where they live. And the same government that runs the facility has a daycare. And they brought the kids by for the seniors to read to them. Great idea, right? And these women were reading, again, in their own home. They're reading to the kids about Christmas. And one of them says, do you all even know the basis for why people celebrate Christmas? Which, by the way, the courts have said teachers should be teaching that.
Yes.
Okay? Because that's basic education. I don't care what the holiday or whatever, you should teach that. But as soon as, these women, one of the women, Wilma,
says, "Well, go there, Wilma."
Yeah, they said, "You can't go there." Okay, it's
yep.
like she's just done something illegal. Okay, this is the government. Okay, the government is telling somebody in their own home that they can't say something. Okay, they can't say what the basis is for Christmas, and then Joan is reading her, the Charlie Brown Christmas story, which I think everybody has seen, and you get to the part of Linus where he quotes some scripture. And they stop. They stop her right there and say, no. Okay, again, so the government is telling these elderly women in their own home that they can't talk about the basis for Christmas. They can't read the Charlie Brown Christmas story. I mean, I just want you to look. If you're listening to this, go when you get a chance. Go to pointofview.net, go to First Liberty, click on it, and look at a picture of these women. And just, your immediate response is, these people are insane. They're insane.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And so we've demanded an apology. But here's the really sad thing: is this is part of a big trend.
Right.
We have a case in Florida, the Donna Dunbar case, where they not only banned her from using the common room for a religious meeting with others there, they actually put a sign on top of the piano that says in all bold letters, all Christian music is banned! Exclamation point. Okay. And then they told, in another one of our cases, this one's in Virginia with Ken Hauge, a retired minister. And again, you got to realize in these places, these are people a lot of times that can't go anywhere.
Yes.
They're in wheelchairs. They can't go somewhere. So
which country are you talking about again? I mean, just let me get that straight. We're talking about the United States, right?
That's exactly right.
Oh, gosh.
And so they told Ken, that he couldn't hold a Bible study in the common room. And so he said, well, anybody can use the common room. They said, yeah, but you can't use it if you're going to do something religious. But there's all these people that couldn't get out, and they knew he was a minister, and they wanted some sort of religious Bible study or service. And so they said, is there any way you can do anything? He said, I'll just do it in my apartment. And he got a letter from the senior living facility saying he would be evicted if he holds a Bible study in his own apartment.
Night.
So what we're seeing with this story is unfortunately part of a trend that we're seeing across the country, and which is why we're fighting, because, I just want to, everybody put yourself, close your eyes, and not if you're driving, close your eyes and think of what it would be like if you're in a living facility like that and you can't get out. And now you can't have any access at any point to a Bible study, to a service, that you're banned. Think of how many living facilities there are across the country and what this would mean for our seniors and how disastrous that would be. We have to win these cases, but it's outrageous that this is even happening. But it is happening. There's a fight here, and we've got to win this fight.
And that article is on our website, pointofview.net. Of course, you can go to firstliberty.org, either place you can find it. And we also have some on Chick-fil-A, which we might get to a little bit later, and one that we will somewhere very quickly in just a few minutes talk about, a change in the Senate rules. It's going to be very helpful for Kelly Shackelford. But, of course, all week we've had Brad Fisk in here. And, Brad, we're to the last day. If people are procrastinating, and I do know some of our listeners tend to like to wait to the last day and put us over the top, we do have an opportunity for them to participate with us, and we also have a match, don't we?
We do, a very significant match. Some friends of the ministry got together, and they said, we have $15,000 that's available if and only if your listeners match it dollar for dollar. What that means is that's outside of our total, that $15,000. The way we get it into our total is for you to call us at 1-800-347-5151 with your very best gift. And we have lots of suggestions for amounts, but that's between you and the Lord. The key deal here is calling and giving and participating. You can also give at pointofview.net, but it's critical. It is our final day of Truth Team Week, and we need to hear from you because there's things like this going on all over the place, and we're going to be hearing about it for the rest of the show. So we must stand up, and we must call truth with a capital B, biblical truth. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Every gift you give is doubled up to $15,000.
And again, most people tell us when we travel around, and when even the other day when my wife was answering phones, their favorite show is the Friday show. I think that's because of Kelly Shackelford.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And we try to get Kelly on as much as possible, and sometimes he's traveling, and every once in a while we give him a Friday off just because Brad, Kelly's not sitting around waiting to do something,
No.
He's got a lot of things to do, and he is such a friend of this ministry and listened to Point of View back when he was listening on KBBW in Waco as a law student. But this is one of the reasons why we've always partnered with Liberty Institute, because we just think so highly of First Liberty and what you've been doing all these years.
Well, it's a privilege to be on here, but I would challenge people. I bet there's a lot of people out there who love Point of View. They've been listening for a long time, and they've never given before. Well, now's a great opportunity.
Yes.
Not only
absolutely.
can you give, but we're right here at the end. We've got $15,000 sitting on the table that is going to be taken away if somebody doesn't match it. So, not that you had to give all 15 in one shot.
Right.
If you want to, we'll be done. And we
Sure,
won't even,
sure,
we'll
we're
just,
good. We're
we'll
good
just
for
keep
that.
going. But, somebody did earlier. They did $100 a month.
Becomes,
That's $1,200.
That's doubled. That becomes $2,400.
That becomes $2,400. So,
That's right.
$1 a day, do the 30 a month. Again, that'll be matched. So definitely.
Please, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. You've never given before, but you're a longtime listener. Now is the time. Lines open. 800-347-5151. Call right now, please.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
Lots of controversial ideas get promoted during election season. We are getting our share of them this time. Eliminate the Electoral College, regulate campaign speech, and end the filibuster are just a few. It occurred to me that the best way to respond to many of these proposals is to remind Americans that our country is a republic, not a democracy. The framers recognized that this country would be quite diverse. They wanted to create a government that would allow different viewpoints to get a hearing. They didn't want the president merely to be elected by the larger populations in the cities like Boston and New York. That is why we have an electoral college. States with small populations fear that states with large populations would always select their candidate. The electoral college forces candidates to campaign in the entire country, not just in population areas. That also explains why we have a House of Representatives elected by voters every 2 years, but regardless of its size, each state gets 2 U.S. senators who were selected by the state legislatures every 6 years and are now elected by the popular vote. We have a Bill of Rights in the Constitution to protect Americans, especially minorities, from a democracy where the majority could take away fundamental rights from a minority. We enjoy freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to bear arms, and freedom from unlawful search and seizure. Even the idea of a filibuster in the U.S. Senate was implemented so that the majority would be forced to hear the arguments from the minority before passing important legislation. The filibuster may have been abused, but the concept once again illustrates our constitutional order. Unfortunately, many of these controversial ideas are being proposed today by political candidates who went to law school and should know better. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For a free copy of Kerby's booklet, A Biblical View on Socialism, go to viewpoints.info/socialism. That's viewpoints.info/socialism. Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Hi, I'm Dinesh D'Souza, and what can I say about Kerby Anderson? He is actually very unique in the world of radio. As an author, I love to be on the show. Why? Because he's actually read my book. As a movie maker, I love to be on the show. Why? Because he's actually seen my movie. This may seem normal, but it's actually not. This is a guy who does his homework, and he thinks about it, and he's one of the most intelligent guys on the radio. So support Point of View, support Kerby Anderson. He's the best.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Dinesh D'Souza, and of course we had Debbie D'Souza on with him this time, and since she was born in Caracas, Venezuela, could remind us of what Venezuela was like before Hugo Chavez ruined the country, help us understand what socialism did to that country and what socialism could do to this country. And I might just mention that one of the other articles we've posted, which we'll get to later, Our Ignorance of Socialism is Dangerous. That one comes from Walter Williams. But we have only a few minutes and hours left because we are down to the last day of the Truth Team Week. And, of course, in studio with us, Kelly Shackelford and, of course, Brad Fisk. And, Brad, we have a $15,000 matching fund on the table. And we have a lot of individuals waiting for the phones to ring. So we have a disconnect here. We need to connect it up.
We'll connect it up. The phone number, first of all, is 800-347-5151. Just a quick brief mention. That $1 a day is enough for you to join the Truth Team. And we have a free thank you gift of the Bible Stick, which is an MP3 player, fits in the palm of your hand. The entire New Testament preloaded on it with the ESV version, dramatized music, sound effects, really easy to listen to. And it's our free gift. as a thank you for anybody who gives $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 for the year or more. And right now it will be doubled. So I just wanted to mention that because that's really important. Phone number 800-347-5151.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Point of View is a part of my daily life, and I know of no other radio program that helps its listeners to develop, articulate, and then defend a biblical worldview as successfully as yours does. For those reasons, I consider it an honor to be able to support Point of View financially, and I would encourage all of your listeners, both young and old, to prayerfully consider doing the same.
I just turned your program on, and I want to just let you know I was working in an abortion clinic when abortion first became legal, and I thought I was helping women. And the Lord showed me in a very powerful way, as He removed the veil from me, what exactly I'd been involved in. And I am proof of forgiveness. And I want to just let you know how much I appreciate just getting the truth out.
I really appreciate your program. I don't get to listen to it every day because I have to work, but it's a really a blessing to me and to all of us.
You know, my husband and I take so many extra precautions to guard our children, and it is a huge effort on the part of Christian parents to do that. I wanted to thank y'all for everything you do each day to inform Christian families and our community about the things we can do, and just the way you're so informative. I listen to you daily and love you guys and appreciate you so much.
I just appreciate all you guys do. I mean, I learned so much, and it's amazing what you teach that I say to other people, and they look at me like, where did you hear that? So I appreciate you guys. So thank you for all you do.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Just a minute, we're going to get to Kelly Shackelford, and he's got all sorts of positive news. If you come away from this broadcast today discouraged, well, then there's something wrong with you, because we're going to give you a lot of positive news. But at the same time, while we're being positive, let me say thank you to those of you that have already responded. We rejoice with you. But again, it's about 150 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have more listeners than 150 people.
Yeah, you can add a few zeros to that.
Yes, which I think sometimes people say, you must be doing very well. Again, if we have, you can add 3 or 4, 5 zeros onto that to the actual listening audience. So 150, I really appreciate those of you that have responded, or even those that are calling right now. But there are so many others.
If everybody who's a brand new donor, longtime listener, were to call us in the next hour and a half or so, we would be fully funded for the coming year. I'm serious.
Yes.
It's a huge part of our listenership are people who have never given. Wouldn't you consider, please, giving us a call and joining the giving family? Join the team. 800-347-5151.
Thank you for the 150 plus that have called in, but we want you to join with that number, and could we at least get to 300 by the end of the day? Maybe not. I don't know.
Lord willing.
Well, Kelly Shackelford, one of the things you talked about so often is what's called the 30-hour rule. And that's when you sometimes in the past in the United States Senate said, we don't know about this guy or this woman that's being considered for the district court judgeship or for the circuit court judgeship. And, of course, this is a lifetime appointment. But this has been misused rather dramatically by the Democrats to slow walk even individuals that President Barack Obama put forward, that Donald Trump actually put forward. And the Republicans the other day in Senate said, enough is enough. Tell us more.
Well, really what's been going on has been, it's just never happened before. If you take the last 6 presidents and you see how many times they've used this rule was for if you're a senator and the president has nominated somebody for any level, cabinet level, lower level, whatever, judges. If you had a problem, you could object and you could ask for 30 hours of floor time and debate. I think that happened like 8 times under Barack Obama, 7 times under Bush. I think the last 6 presidents, the total was maybe in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
In the first 2 years of President Trump, it happened 128 times.
128 times.
Goodness.
And so it was
That's
just a way
ridiculous.
to clog the system, to not let the president get his nominees, which is not what the purpose of the rule is. And it's so what has been happening is we've been getting excellent judges onto the court. I mean, I think people know Gorsuch, Kavanaugh. These are really excellent judges. We just had an argument at the Supreme Court 4 weeks ago. I can't tell you how awesome it was that at my right at the very end was Kavanaugh, at my left at the very end was Gorsuch, and they were so good.
Of course, they asked a lot of good questions and made a lot of good points.
It was on
Yes.
religious freedom. They are heroes for us. So they're going to be fabulous. But we couldn't get all of them on. So in the first 2 years, we got 85 judges through, confirmed for life. That is a huge deal. I mean, it was the largest number of appellate judges ever in the first 2 years. But they clogged it up so much that there were 50 some odd district court judges just waiting for their vote.
Yes.
And this was, and now there's almost 160 seats. So it's it's backlogging.
Yes.
So while we're getting the best quality judges we've ever had, the problem was getting them through. But that's all now going to change, because just this week, and we've been pushing for this for a while, the Senate changed the rule so that no longer do you have to have 30 hours of debate on these lower court judges or even lower cabinet level positions. It's now 2 hours. Now, they still can have 30 hours on Supreme Court and on cabinet level and all this, but on all these lower, it's ridiculous. I think they were averaging less than 15 minutes, not 30 hours of the time they actually used. So it was just a way to slow things down. So what's going to happen now is, we're going to be able to move as many as 4 judges a day. So I really believe we are about to set the court for the next 30 years in the next year and a half. Awesome. We're about to move that. This is about the judges that your grandchildren and maybe even your great-grandchildren go before. One of those examples is one of the guys who works for us at First Liberty.
I know him.
Who was tapped at age 39 to be a federal judge the rest of his life. So think of it. He, 39. Is it your grandkids, your great-grandkids?
Yeah.
He's going to be the judge a long time from now. And this is a guy who is
brilliant. Such a great writer.
And would never turn from the Constitution or from what he knows is right. He's just a strong believer. So this is the kinds of judges we're getting on the court, but they've been backlogged. Well, that's all about to change. We're about to have a major impact on the judiciary, and these are going to be excellent, excellent judges.
As we say so often, you're hearing things on Point of View you hear nowhere else. By the way, if you want to read this is one of the articles we posted, or of course you can go to firstliberty.org. I just put them here because sometimes there's so much great material at First Liberty, it's hard to find. So we also have them on our website, but you can follow the link. And this is another reason, I think, to support Point of View. You're hearing things that you probably won't hear even on, maybe you'll hear it on Fox News, but I doubt you're going to hear it on any of the mainstream media.
That's right.
And these are positive changes. We're going to talk about a couple others in the next hour or so.
Excellent.
That are all positive changes that are going to make a difference to you, your children, and to your grandchildren as well.
If you want to say thank you tangibly, if you want to say, I want to join, I want to be a part of this, I don't want to be left out, well, we're inviting you to call. Join the Truth Team, especially those of you who are brand new givers. You maybe been longtime listeners. Here's the phone number, 800-347-5151. We've got some lines open right now at 800-347-5151. And while you're on the website getting material, you can also make a donation, pointofview.net.
That's right, pointofview.net. And click on that banner and join with us. 1-800-347-5151.
Every dollar doubled.
Let's be honest. Many people who support socialistic policies believe it's the right thing to help our fellow man. What they fail to see is that the only ones really helped by socialism are politicians. The so-called Great Society began more than 50 years ago, and despite trillions of dollars, there's been no improvement in the poverty rate. If you support socialism to help people, it's not helping. Free markets, largely birthed from economic principles in the Bible, have done more to lift people out of poverty than any other system in history. You have a chance today to do something to really help people by spreading that message when you join the Truth Team. And we have other friends who will match whatever you invest, every dollar doubled up to $15,000. Join now, online at pointofview.net. or by phone 800-347-5151. Time is up at midnight, but you can still make a difference if you take a moment and join the Truth Team right now. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.
are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Final day of our Truth Team, but of course it is also our weekend edition. Kelly Shackelford with us. And I might just mention that we're going to give you some more positive news. My only concern is I keep giving so much positive news. People say, oh, I guess it's done. We don't need to support this ministry anymore. No. I'm sure that is not the case. But if nothing else, like I said, if you end this broadcast today and you're discouraged, you just haven't been listening, because we just talked about the fact that this has changed dramatically. We've posted this article about this 30-hour rule that's been used up until now to slow walk all of these judicial nominees. That is gone. And you are starting to see a complete restructuring of some of these circuit courts, which is going to make Kelly Shackelford and his lawyers' life a lot better. But there's more, as they like to sometimes say in the commercials. And those of you, for example, that give to First Liberty, and I do, the letter just came the other day, was just encouraging. Well, we've talked about this before, but let's go into this, because, Kelly, in this, you talk about all the individuals who in their workplace are told that they can't express their religious values. Mm-hmm. And the good news is that there is a possibility, and you are asking the Supreme Court to overturn a decision that came out of Oregon. I'm familiar with it. It's called the Smith decision, but you don't need to know all about that. But it's a decision that has really gummed up and prevented you from using the First Amendment effectively, because the First Amendment not only talks about the establishment of religion, but it also talks about the free exercise. Talk about this, because you believe that you are on the cusp, on the precipice of changing some things that have really prevented you from being able to make your case before the Supreme Court.
Well, if you watch cases, very few cases now on religious freedom bring free exercise claims.
Yes.
And people would be a little shocked at that if they're not lawyers, because they'd go, well, I thought that's kind of an important right in the First Amendment, the free exercise of religion.
That's what it is, yeah.
But there's a case about 32 years ago called the Smith decision that really neutered the free exercise clause. So most claims are brought under just free speech, because you get more protection for religious speech than you do for the free exercise of religion, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, if you were to ask, like Hiram, our general counsel, or he was talking. He said, if you just said in your lifetime you're going to get rid of Smith, he said, I would say, okay, I'll do that and retire. That'll be a life's work that'll be hugely impactful.
Right.
And we're about to maybe do that. And not just under the free exercise clause, but also under the establishment clause with another case.
With the Bradenburgs. Yeah, let's talk about that, too, because you are going to maybe get a twofer out of this, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I think most people are aware of the Coach Kennedy case, and Coach was told he couldn't pray after the football game, go to a knee, 15 to 20 seconds by himself, just say a prayer thanking God for the privilege of coaching these young men, and he was fired. The Ninth Circuit said that coaches are not allowed to pray in public if anyone can see them, which is just a shocking decision. The Supreme Court did something very unusual. Usually, 99% of the cases are cert denied. They get 8,000 requests, they only take 80. And if it's cert denied, it means you're done.
Yep.
And we got a cert denied on Coach Kennedy, which we were like, oh no, this is horrible. And then there was a statement attached, which is
I think this
not
is great.
normal. Not normal. Very, very rare from the four more conservative justices, including Kavanaugh. And by the way, it only takes 4 to take a case. So they said, this is just cert denied for now. We want you to go back down to the trial court, establish a fact, which we can easily establish, and we should win.
Right.
And then they had a second part of the opinion. They said, by the way, we found the Ninth Circuit opinion very troubling. In fact, we can't even really believe that they meant what they said. And then they added this thing at the end, and it just sent shockwaves throughout all the legal community, because they brought up something we didn't even bring up. They said, we noticed, by the way, that there is a free exercise claim down below, but that's not what reached us first. It was a free speech claim. Maybe that's because of this Smith decision that has done so much damage to religious freedom.
Which is their way of saying, we're ready to kill that thing.
Next sentence.
Yeah.
But we haven't been asked to review that case yet.
Hint, hint.
So
Wink, wink.
State the obvious.
Basically said, come back and let's look at Smith. And we might be, and it's not we are on the verge of changing history, of taking something that's 30 years old, that has damaged religious freedom in this country, and that will take us back to a religious freedom that most people alive don't even remember.
What's the timeline on all of this?
It'll probably take another 2 to 3 years to get back to the Supreme Court, because we've got to go back to the trial court, nail down these facts, go back to the Ninth Circuit, which will probably not be friendly, and then go back. But that's that case. We have another case, Sweet Cakes by Melissa, the Oregon bakers who were fined $135,000 for not doing a same-sex wedding cake. Their case is sitting at the Supreme Court right now, and guess what we had as our third point of error in our petition to the court? You need to overrule Smith.
Yes.
So they could take it Monday. They could take it, a week from now, and we could end it even quicker than the Coach Kennedy case. We'll see. But the point is, we're on the verge of changing history really for religious freedom. And it's not only in the Smith decision and the free exercise, but many people remember we had the Bladensburg Cross,
right,
the Veterans Memorial. That case, we're on the precipice of changing history because the Establishment Clause jurisprudence has been so damaged by a case called Lemon. It's 50 years old.
It was after 71, I think I remember right.
That's right.
1971.
1971.
Kelly, I got a question. I have not heard of any of this anywhere else. I really haven't. I'm pretty connected, and I haven't heard it from any of the mainstream press. I haven't heard it in newsletters and other kinds of things. What? It's incredible.
I think it's too complicated for most people to get into a soundbite, and so, and plus they don't care. If you're a secular media source, news source, well, you don't care. Yeah. But I just want point of view listeners to understand what this would mean. The Lemon Test, what is the Establishment Clause about? It's saying we don't want there to be a national church, and we don't want the government to coerce anyone with regard to their religion. Right. That's what it was about. Well, what does the Lemon Test say? That's not what it says. The Lemon Test says if there's separation of church and state, or they bring in all these other concepts that aren't in the Constitution. So the way it works is, with separation of church and state, that means if there's religion and it's on and the government is nearby, you can't have that. Well, government's everywhere. So that's just a way to push religion to the corners. So that's why 10 Commandments are under attack. Crosses that are veterans memorials under attack. Nativity scenes, menorahs, prayer in public, all these things. So our whole lives, our experience has been if religion occurs in public, everybody tenses up because they're like, is this a problem?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason we're experiencing that is this Lemon case. If we overturn that and they go the direction we ask them to go, that will be over. And from now on, when religion occurs in public, everybody will go, well, that's fine. Is their government setting up a national church? Are they coercing you with regard to their religion?
No.
Then religion in public is fine. There's nothing wrong with a cross, a 10 Commandments, a nativity scene.
It's huge.
A whole culture will change.
That's huge.
And so we won't know until late June when the court comes down with their decision. I urge point of view listeners, be in prayer. There's spiritual warfare going on with those justices right now.
I'll bet. Yep.
Between now and late June, be praying and be listening to point of view where you'll hear what happens.
I got some more good news. We have a match challenge of $15,000, Kirby, and a portion of that has been carved away. I'd like to say thank you, if I could, real quick, to some people who are helping us along the way. Here's a $1 a day listener. Richard, thank you for that gift. It becomes $2 a day, by the way. And here's another one joining the Truth Team at $1 a day. Here is one, $250 once a month for a year. And every year, thank you for that. That becomes $500. A $500 single gift becomes $1,000. Thank you. That's from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Sharon, thank you for checking in with us. She wants the Bible stick, and she wants to become part of the Truth Team. And one more, another Truth Team member joining the Truth Team. 1-800-347-5151. Those $1 a day people become $2 a day because of the match. We're asking you to please call while we have that need of the match to be met. 800-347-5151. You want some good news? then please continue to listen to Point of View because we bring it all.
And that's one of the reasons why I would encourage you to give us a call. Pointofview.net is one place to go, but also we have still some lines open at 800-347-5151. You know, every once in a while people kid me because I have some phrases, and of course this one comes from Howard Hendricks. You remember him?
Mm-hmm.
But he used to say that if that doesn't light your fire, your wood is wet.
Your wood is wet.
You
That's
cannot
right.
get excited
I
about
love
the
it.
possibility here that Kelly is sharing with us today of overturning the Lemon Test and changing the whole view of the establishment of religion, changing the Smith decision, and really completely restructuring the idea of free exercise, and learning, as we've also talked about as well, that they're starting to move through some of these very qualified judges. Then I don't know what else to say other than you should be very encouraged, and you've heard about it here at Point of View. And if Brad hasn't heard about it, since he goes to the National Religious Broadcasters, you know a lot of people are probably hearing it for the first time here on Point of View.
Yep.
1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. Every dollar doubled.
There's yet another survey out showing that young people stop going to church after high school as they go off to college or start a job away from home. A 2017 Lifeway research survey shows 66% of Americans stopped attending church on a regular basis for at least a year after turning 18. This is down slightly from 2007, when 70% reported they dropped out of church at that age. Most young people who cease regular attendance are not doing so because they no longer believe in God. The Lifeway survey, which is based on responses from more than 2,000 young Americans who attended Protestant churches, shows that the top reason for young people leaving church was that they moved into college. It's not that most rejected the church, stated Ed Stetzer, former executive director of Lifeway Research. Dr. Stetzer, now head of the Billy Graham Center at Wheaton College, looked at the data and concluded they simply lose track of the church and stop seeing it as important to their lives. Many, hopefully, will return. Another semi-encouraging survey has surfaced. A recent New York Times headline reads, "Support of LGBT rights drops among Republicans under 30." A large survey conducted by the Washington, D.C.-based Public Religion Research Institute shows a majority of this group thinks LGBT Americans should receive special privileges and accommodations, but the percentage is dropping, down 9% since 2015. It was one of the largest and most significant drops that we saw, Robert P. Jones, chief executive of the Institute, told The Times. Family Research Council suggests that young conservatives may have some buyer's remorse about this agenda that wasn't supposed to affect them. In the 3 years since the Obergefell Supreme Court decision that brought us same-sex marriage nationwide, we've seen it used as a weapon against free speech, religious liberty, and privacy. This shows we shouldn't give up on Gen Z. For Point of View, I'm Penna Dexter.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
The things that catch my attention are the abortion issue, and it's so important for people to understand the value of life. And to me, that is number one in our lives. And the shows that I've heard on that have impacted. It just gives me kind of a different venue to be able to explain things differently to people. And I have kept in touch with the ministry, and I do donate each month because I feel like it's an important way
for people to understand the worldview and that Christ taught, and we have just tried very hard to instill that in our children. Thank you so much for your service, guys, because you do have one.
Point of View. Truth Team 360.
You know, one of the callers there was talking about abortion. It just reminds me of another victory we talked about this week with the unplanned movie. I mean, here, first of all, the unplanned movie could not actually advertise in a lot of various venues. They wouldn't take the advertising dollars, if you can believe that.
Yeah, that's
then
nuts.
the MMPA said we're going to slap an R rating on that, which says that if you're under a certain age, you can get an abortion, but if you're under a certain age, you can't read.
You can't see the movie.
See the movie about abortion.
Absurd.
And then the Twitter account collapses. Oh, I'm sure that was just coincidence. And nevertheless, the unplanned movie did twice as good as what they thought. So there's just a lot of victories out here right now, Kelly. So again, we're rejoicing in the victories. But I don't want people to take that for granted because we have a match on the table.
We do, and it's down to 9,300 to go. We've carved off a third of it already, just about. Thank you so much. Don't stop calling, man. We got to get this done by the end of the show. So a thought occurs to me as I listened to the last break and heard you telling the story. And if I may be so bold as to suggest, you would not be sitting here right now or telling that story really without the influence of point of view in your life from time past. Talk about that a little bit, because I think that's huge for our listeners to understand that we actually have graduates, so to speak, of point of view that go out and do wonderful things and are in very important positions of leadership.
Yeah, well, back in law school, really over 30 years ago for me, I turned on this radio program and heard Marlon Maddox's voice, point of view. It basically was the first time I'd ever heard anything where they actually dealt with current day issues, you know, the culture, politics, you name what was going on in current day life, but from a biblical perspective. And I just, loved it, ate it up. And little did I know that, someday I would be out of law school using my law in this very arena, being on point of view, as one of the co-hosts. So it's just an incredible sort of, circle back around, right?
Exhibit A of another reason why point of view, we really do need your support. We are really the megaphone of so many other people and organizations day in and day out. And we are happy to do that. We love doing that. We love the partnership of the body of Christ. But this is a critical time, you guys. It's a match challenge. We have $9,300 to go to get that match done. And your gifts are so critical at this point because we cannot stop doing what we're doing. We must continue strong. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151.
And again, we just said thank you to about 150 of you now, maybe up to about 170 or maybe 175 of you that have called in. But if you have not, there is space for you right now. And that number is 800-347-5151. Kelly, we were just talking about all the positives. I want to put one more on the table, and that is the quality of these individuals that are going into the district court and the circuit court. And you've explained why this is so different and why we're seeing so much, if I can be bold enough, better nominees that are now making their way on the court. Why is that?
Well, what happened with this particular president really never has happened before. In the past, it was always, well, I got you elected and my brother's a lawyer, and he needs to be a judge. It was all politics. But this president did something different. As a candidate, he ran on this issue and said, I am going to appoint judges with this type of judicial philosophy, this originalism that feel bound by the words of the Constitution. And he kind of laid that out. He even listed who his Supreme Court justice would be. Nobody's ever done that before. And in fact, he was asked, how are you going to know all this? How are you going to? He said, well, I'm going to look at outside groups that are experts on this, like the Federalist Society, like Heritage Foundation, like groups like us at First Liberty. And nobody's done that before. So, and that's what's happening. It's you've got a White House counsel's office that serves the president that are looking for these types of judges. And so that's why Gorsuch Kavanaugh. If you look at their philosophy, their approach, it's just excellent. Gorsuch, I've never seen anybody that has written before they came to the Supreme Court the type of opinions they've written on religious freedom, and he was the best I've ever seen.
Yes.
But it's happening all the way down the courts, the stuff that people aren't paying attention to. And I can just give you one example, which is a guy we've talked about before, Jim Ho.
Jim Ho. He's one of my favorite.
He's
Fifth
probably
one
of the smartest lawyers in the country.
Very
just
gifted.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And he has already written, he's just been there a year and 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
He's already written on campaign finance, religious freedom, the Second Amendment, transgenderism. We just keep going. And his opinions are not softball opinions.
They're really
if there's anybody that's a
impressive.
Trump judge, it's him, because he is very specific. And a good example is this opinion that he just wrote on transgenderism. All the conservative judges are scared to death this issue, and they won't touch it. There's a statute, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that involves non-discrimination in employment, and it says you can't discriminate on the basis of sex. Well, everybody knows what that meant back then, male, female. Well, now they're trying to say, oh, no, that includes transgenderism. And nobody's willing to write what Jim Ho just wrote in a recent opinion, where he lays out all the arguments showing how completely ridiculous it would be to reinterpret the word sex to mean something it never meant. When they passed, it's unimpeachable. You can't go against it. He might have turned the whole tide, the whole country on this, because he's the only one that's written a brilliant, just impeccably logic and reasoned opinion that there's really no way to avoid. And when the Supreme Court gets this, they're going to be looking at what he wrote. That changes the country by appointing just even one really excellent judge.
Kind of a future Antonin Scalia or a Samuel Alito type of individual, or even Neil Gorsuch. So these are the quality of individuals. I'm trying to give people some positive news.
Sure, why
and
not?
It is unbelievable what is happening, and you wouldn't know about it unless you had a chance to hear Kelly Shackelford here on Point of View.
That's right. And a reminder, we're in the final day final of our Truth Team Week. And for those of you that have never given before, you've been listening for a long time, on and off, you happen to be listening right now, rejoicing with us in the good news, would you join the Truth Team family financially? Would you put your money where your heart is and help us, please, at 800-347-5151. I'd love to fill every single line. So that'd be about 8 or 10 of you to really just completely flood the phones right now at 800-347-5151. That $1 a day is such an easy entry-level kind of gift, and we'd invite you to do that. You can also go to pointofview.net. That's also another place to give. But you know what? Participation, full participation at any level, and we would be so grateful to welcome you to the team.
We certainly do want to hear from you right now, because when we come back, we're going to talk about some things like Medicare for All, a Green New Deal, as well as some of the cases that Kelly Shackelford is still fighting, and why, if those are won, it is a very different outcome for our country. So you don't want to miss that. So that's why you want to call right now at 800-347-5151, 1-800-347-5151. And if Brad gets his wish, you might have to be on hold for just a second, but do so. But the bottom line is we got $15,000 match. Now it's whittled down, but there's still match available if you call at 800-347-5151.
Let's be honest. Many people who support socialistic policies believe it's the right thing to help our fellow man. What they fail to see is that the only ones really helped by socialism are politicians. The so-called Great Society began more than 50 years ago, and despite trillions of dollars, there's been no improvement in the poverty rate. If you support socialism to help people, it's not helping. Free markets, largely birthed from economic principles in the Bible, have done more to lift people out of poverty than any other system in history. You have a chance today to do something to really help people by spreading that message when you join the Truth Team. And we have other friends who will match whatever you invest, every dollar doubled up to $15,000. Join now, online at pointofview.net or by phone 800-347-5151. Time is up at midnight, but you can still make a difference if you take a moment and join the Truth Team right now. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.
I just want to thank you so much for all the wonderful programming you have. You're just absolutely fantastic.
I recently started listening to Point of View, and I really found it interesting because of the different subjects you cover. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate everything that you do in keeping us informed.
Thank you, Kerby, for everything that you have been doing. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, advocating for the Word of God. Thank you so much.
Point of view, I think, is absolutely necessary because it's a Christian perspective, a biblical worldview perspective, and receive very current, up-to-date information about what is really going on, week to week in our culture, which is changing so rapidly, and yet it's morally sliding backwards.
Yeah, I'm just, first of all, I thank you guys. Y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it.
Point of View Radio Talk Show.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging: apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View continues right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Final hour today, not only of our weekend edition, but also a truth team. And of course, one of the things we've been talking about with Kelly Shackelford is our attempt to cover a broad range of issues and topics that other people oftentimes ignore, providing a biblical point of view, as well as, of course, these booklets that we've made available for those of you that give at the higher levels, as well as online resources, the Outlook magazine, and much more. But Kelly, you've also recognized how we, in many cases, when we're supporting this, getting information out for people that are going to make a difference with it.
Absolutely. It makes a huge difference. I mean, for instance, most people wouldn't know about a lot of the battles going on. I mean, I wonder how many people who listen to Point of View would even know about the Bladensburg Cross case at the Supreme Court, if it wasn't for Point of View. And how many people would, I mean, I guarantee you they wouldn't know what it really means. I mean, if they're not on the First Liberty, mailing list or whatever, there'd be no way they knew the implications of what this means, because you just wouldn't get that through the press. Really, in a unique way, I consider what's going on here with the pledge, with being on the team, the 360 team, and or Century team, or whatever they decide to do. It's sort of a unique kind of censorship. This is about Point of View. It's talking about things and getting information out that you won't get anywhere else. And if they know Kerby at all, they know it's very accurate. It's thought through, kind of like the Ramesh Richards or D'Souza or whatever. I think it was D'Souza.
Yeah.
That he said, golly, this guy's actually read my books. He's watched the movies before he interviews me. I love it. So the stuff that's on here is always thought through. It's always accurate, and it's stuff you won't get anywhere else. And yet, this is about censorship. If people heard, you're not going to get to hear Point of View anymore. The government's going to take it off. People would be outraged, right? Mm-hmm. But in this case, the censorship is up to you if you're listening. If you don't send in money, then it won't be on in a number of places. If you do, it will be on. So you actually control whether the show is censored or not.
That's very wise, and that's really important for people to understand.
And that's not only important for just what you hear, but you're going to affect what. I don't know what you might know, but I don't even know, Brad, what the average gift allows how many other people to hear.
Right.
It might be for every one person 50 or 100 or whatever other people.
It's a high multiplier because we have fewer donors, but we have a huge listening audience, and many of them are checking in today.
Yeah. So you're not only controlling censorship for yourself, but for lots of other people who are going to get information from a biblical worldview that they will not get anywhere else. So it really is huge, the impact you have and the control you have over what happens.
One of the things we've been talking about this week, Kelly, as you well know, is socialism. It's titled Socialism, Clear and Present Danger. Even today we've got the Walter Williams piece, Our Ignorance of Socialism is Dangerous. But you've been looking at this list that just seems to be a growing list. Medicare for All, the Green New Deal. As a matter of fact, if you click on the button that we have there right now, I'll just give you that short list because we talk about that as well as the wealth tax, free college tuition, guaranteed income for all, 70% tax rate, and on and on and on. I think we made a list the other day. It was almost 20 different items, most of which are promoting socialism. And people say, it's not possible that you'd ever elect a socialist president. Well, they just elected some aldermen in Chicago that were part of the Democratic Socialists, and some of the leading contenders in the Democratic Party right now agree with most of the things I've just mentioned. So we're just one election away from having a socialist economy, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, anybody who has a brain knows that socialism is failed. It's failed in history. It doesn't make any sense when you go beyond the name of what it is. Even the George Barna polling and the other polling from all the different polling groups that show that most millennials actually prefer socialism over capitalism. When you began to ask the next questions, like, do you want government control of the economy and all this, which are a part of socialism, they say, no, they don't want that. So this is one of those issues that if you just have information, it totally changes your perspective, it's the exact, exhibit A for why point of view is so important. You watch a lot of these things they're doing. If you just ask the next question, right? Medicare for all. How much is that going to cost?
Mm-hmm.
How many trillions of dollars? We can't even
32
afford.
trillion.
Is it even going to work?
Yeah.
Is there going to be medical help? Who knows?
32 trillion.
And then ask people the next question. Would you rather the government be in control of your health care, or would you rather be in control of your health care? All of a sudden, they're like, well, I want to be in control of your health. Okay, then this is not for you. So it's like you just have to ask the next question, and that's what point of view does, is it looks at these things and it says, let's think about this. Let's look about it. Because, I mean, look, socialism sounds great for it's a great, like for Christians, they think, we're going to care for people.
Yeah.
And so at the very surface level, before you ask the next question, it sounds really good. But anybody who's studied history and knows where it goes to, mass murder. It goes to horrible evil. And it's a great thing for the enemy because it's something that sounds really good. And then when you go one level down and you start to think about what it really means and what kind of human nature it plays on, it's very bad.
1-800-347-5151. Our match challenge started at $15,000 about an hour and a half ago. We are down to $8,700 to get this cleared up, and we'd love to get it cleared up this hour if at all possible. Listen, we are a national program. Here's proof. We heard from Texas, Ohio, South Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Florida, Oklahoma, Missouri, just to name a few. I love that because that shows us working together to get this job done. 800-347-5151. That $1 a day is such a great entry level. $30 a month, $360 for the year, and we have a thank you gift of the Bible Stick, which is the New Testament preloaded on a little MP3 player kit that we send you, and you can listen to this anywhere, anytime, or give it as a gift to somebody who needs to get the Word of God embedded in their brain and heart. 800-347-5151. There are 5 lines open for you right now. 800-347-5151. and you can always give online at pointofview.net. Pointofview.net.
I loved also, people can't see this unless they're doing the online, but this Bible stick for the military.
Yes, the military version.
What a cool, it is really neat looking.
Yep.
And the idea that you could make a gift and then give this to somebody in the military,
yep.
What a fabulous idea.
Several today have done $100 a month for a year, and that 2 of these get sent to a serviceman or woman who's deployed. The deployed people get first priority on the Bible sticks, and they only get them by request through their chaplain. That's the way they're distributed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's really cool, the box, everything about it. But I've got to think, if I'm in the military, to be able to have the Bible on a little Bible stick like that, I mean, how valuable is that?
That's right. It's awesome, and it's very, very popular. But again, your gift of $100 a month or more will actually be able to send 2 of those to servicemen or women overseas.
When we come back from the break, I want to talk about some of those military cases that Kelly's been involved with, and so that is certainly the case, but that's why you need to call right now, 800-347-5151. We need 3 more calls, so you can be one of those 3. 1-800-347-5151. Every dollar doubled.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
Lots of controversial ideas get promoted during election season. We are getting our share of them this time. Eliminate the Electoral College, regulate campaign speech, and end the filibuster are just a few. It occurred to me that the best way to respond to many of these proposals is to remind Americans that our country is a republic, not a democracy. The framers recognized that this country would be quite diverse. They wanted to create a government that would allow different viewpoints to get a hearing. They didn't want the president merely to be elected by the larger populations in the cities like Boston and New York. That is why we have an electoral college. States with small populations feared that states with large populations would always select their candidate. The electoral college forces candidates to campaign in the entire country, not just in population areas. That also explains why we have a House of Representatives elected by voters every 2 years, but regardless of its size, each state gets 2 U.S. senators who were selected by the state legislatures every 6 years and are now elected by the popular vote. We have a Bill of Rights in the Constitution to protect Americans, especially minorities, from a democracy where the majority could take away fundamental rights from a minority. We enjoy freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to bear arms, and freedom from unlawful search and seizure. Even the idea of a filibuster in the U.S. Senate was implemented so that the majority would be forced to hear the arguments from the minority before passing important legislation. The filibuster may have been abused, but the concept once again illustrates our constitutional order. Unfortunately, many of these controversial ideas are being proposed today by political candidates who went to law school and should know better. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For a free copy of Kerby's booklet, A Biblical View on Socialism, go to viewpoints.info/socialism. That's viewpoints.info/socialism. Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Hi, everybody. This is Gary Bauer with American Values in Washington, D.C. You know, I've been involved in big battles in Washington for many, many years, and in those battles, time and time again, it's been Point of View Radio and Kerby Anderson who's provided me with a platform to sound the alarm. It doesn't matter whether the battle was over the sanctity of human life or preserving religious liberty or defending marriage. Kerby Anderson and Point of View have always been there standing strong. That's why today I'm asking you to join me in giving the most generous contribution you can to Point of View Radio. You know, Point of View and Kerby don't get big subsidies from Washington, D.C. like some liberals do. They depend on generous donors like you who believe in family, faith, and freedom.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
Gary Bauer, always a good friend of this ministry, was on earlier with us in the first hour of the first day, and just a great opportunity to hear from him again, giving him a platform, giving, of course, Kelly Shackelford a platform, many others, to really address those issues. And lots of times people wonder, well, why should I give to Point of View? Good question, right?
That's a very good question. But first, before I get the answers from you guys, we are down to $7,500 on the match challenge, halfway there from the 15 we started with. So don't stop calling now. We got a ways to go. I really want to get that cleared up by the top of the hour. 800-347-5151. But you may be asking a really important question we all should be asking or giving. Why should I give to Point of View Radio.
And I've got a long list, but I'll just mention one, and that is that people that have listened to Point of View have decided to run for school board or city council, legislature, Congress. We have 2 individuals ran for the presidency. We've had individuals that have gone to their school board or to their library to complain about what was being taught. We've had individuals starting pregnancy resource centers, starting schools, and most importantly, because I'm going to toss it to Kelly, because of people listening to Point of View, they realize, wait a minute, I can stand up for my religious liberty, and they then go and contact Kelly or other organizations and say, you know, if I don't stand up for my religious liberty, I'm going to lose it.
Well, we just had one, I can't remember which case it is now, Kerby, but just a few weeks ago, that
I remember this
one of our brand new cases, and it was because it was somebody who called from Point of View, and it's a big case on religious freedom. You know, my why would be, I mean, there's so many, but it would be, look, Point of View reaches almost, 1.5 million people. And so that's a lot of people. So how would you, I mean, if you think of, boy, I would really like the culture to change. I would like to get the truth to the culture. You know, I mean, I want people to come to know the Lord, but I know that our culture is in trouble if people who say they know the Lord have never thought about how the Bible applies to these things and they can begin to understand it. Boy, that'll really change our culture. But the thing is, you're not just reaching 1.5 million or 1.4 million people. Those people are getting the information, and then they're going into their groups.
The multiplication effort.
So
absolutely.
the multiplication of the 1.4 to 5 million is huge.
That's right.
When you look at, I mean, how many people say, I'd like to change this culture. I'd like our culture in the United States to change. The truth is the key to that. And Point of View is providing this. They're taking the biblical worldview towards all these things that you're talking to your friends about every day. And this is going to spread throughout the entire country. So it's a huge impact you can have for just a monthly gift or a yearly gift.
A gift of any amount. And you're going to know what my why is, and I go there all the time because it's on my heart. The why to give is the children and the grandchildren. It's the future generations coming up. What kind of a world are they going to grow up in? What kind of a world are they going to function in as adults when we're long gone? And I really believe now is the time to take care of assuring that there's going to be biblical freedom that we understand and not persecution of any kind. But that only happens as we stand as a watchman at the door. And you can help us stand tall by donating to Point of View. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151.
I do want to add one more thing, and that is, you know, we were talking about this Bible stick that goes to the military. And again, if you join at the Century Club level, 2 of these go to those individuals overseas.
Yes.
Plus, there's an MP3 that allows the parents or the family or the wife or whatever to follow along. And it gets us into the military. And for just a few minutes, I'd like to talk about the military. Number one, I want to hear from some of you in the military right now or that have served in the military to give us a call, 1-800-347-5151. Because Kelly Shackelford, I just even look at the newsletter I got the other day. We have Wes Motter, we have Philip Monk, we have all sorts of individuals in the military where you've won cases for them, but you have some others that are in process. And this is because you have had the vision for bringing on people like Michael Berry and others to really recognize that this First Liberty issue is really becoming a big issue in the military, isn't it?
It is. It's a huge, I mean, we had to form a whole division just for religious freedom in the military. I mean, it's a shame, but people who give up everything they're giving up to be in the military to serve us, the idea that we would then strip away their constitutional rights.
That's wrong.
And
That's
look,
wrong.
they're in a structure where they can't exactly complain and make trouble. And so if we don't come in and defend these people, they're really in a winless situation. But as you say, I know you're looking at the letter that we sent out this month, Kerby, where we listed a number of the victories,
right?
And a number of those are military. This is all about employment, but a number of those were military. It's chaplains, it's different individuals. But on the list that we're still fighting, there are still a number of those. And again, Mike Berry, as you mentioned, our Marine, who's just got promoted today to Lieutenant Colonel. So congratulations!
I'm gonna salute him next time I see him.
Yeah. Mike Berry, but a great guy.
He was a JAG.
I need to tell you a quick story because I don't know if people have heard this story publicly. But we walked out of the Bladensburg Cross case right after the argument, down the steps of the Supreme Court, and at the bottom of the steps, right as we were walking to the microphones, Mike looked over and saw a woman holding a sign, and he said, "Hold on a second." And he walked over there, and he looked at the sign, and he saw this young man in dress blues, Marine, and he looked at her, and he says, "Was this your son?" She said, "Yes, he died in Afghanistan." And Mike Berry lost some close friends. He served in Afghanistan and lost some close friends there. And she looked at him and she said, "Look, I just heard about this case." And she said, "If they tear down this memorial, it would just be devastating to me." Said, "Because I know where they're going next. They're going into Arlington, and that's where my son is."
Tear down that cross.
And it was powerful because it shows you this is not just about that one memorial and the 2 million members of the American Legion. It's about a lot of people in this country.
These are real people. Real people.
And it's about even greater than that, because it's about, as we talked about earlier, changing the test that's causing all these attacks around the country. And I think we might be on the verge of doing that, which will affect the next 50 years for our kids and our grandkids.
And you mentioned just a minute ago, one of our listeners to Point of View told you about the fact that they had this memorial for the POW MIAs, and there they had a Bible on it. Oh, well, you can't have a Bible on that. And this was a Bible actually from Vietnam, if I remember right, by that individual. So, again, that shows the connection of Point of View and First Liberty, because a listener to Point of View calls First Liberty and said, "Do you know about this case?" And you guys go, "No, tell us about it." And then you got involved, right?
And it's now been put back, and it's now been protected. And Mikey Weinstein and his group that were trying to get the Bible censored from a MIA table. I mean, somebody missing in action.
Yeah.
That's a loser for them, and it's a win for the good guys. And again, it probably wouldn't have happened if Point of View listener hadn't called in and said, "Hey, can you guys help these people?"
By the way, Mikey hates the Bible stick. I've bumped into him because he lives in my area where I live, and he does not like the military Bible stick at all. Just for the record.
But again, we're coming to a break, and this is a perfect time to call. But I want to hear from some of you in the military. Yeah. I know that we have a lot of people in the military, not only in Texas and Florida and South Carolina, Georgia, and all sorts of places, California, wherever you might be listening right now. But we'd love to especially hear from some of you in the military say, "I appreciate the fact that First Liberty talks about this and Point of View talks about this."
Let me add on to that. Not only do we want to hear from members of the military, but families of the military. Maybe you've lost in previous wars. Grandmas, grandpas, fathers, daughters, mothers, sons. We would love to hear. If you're connected to the military, we honor them, and we would welcome your phone call. And we're asking you to give. 800-347-5151. You've given a lot, we know. But could you help us continue to do what we do? 800-347-5151. That's toll free. 800-347-5151. We still have a ways to go in the match.
We do.
It's going to get into critical time here pretty soon. $7,500 of match money remaining. Every dollar you give will be doubled if you call us right now.
Well, it would make the match a lot easier if people give $100, pledge $100 a month, and of course they'll be able to send 2 of these to people in the military. Right. So I want to hear from some of you in the military, but for all of you as well. We have an opportunity, and this opportunity we do not want to evaporate by the end of this next hour, because we only have a half an hour left. 1-800-347-5151. Of course, you can also go online, pointofview.net. We'll be right back.
Let's be honest. Many people who support socialistic policies believe it's the right thing to help our fellow man. What they fail to see is that the only ones really helped by socialism are politicians. The so-called Great Society began more than 50 years ago, and despite trillions of dollars, there's been no improvement in the poverty rate. If you support socialism to help people, it's not helping. Free markets, largely birthed from economic principles in the Bible, have done more to lift people out of poverty than any other system in history. You have a chance today to do something to really help people by spreading that message when you join the Truth Team. And we have other friends who will match whatever you invest, every dollar doubled up to $15,000. Join now, online at pointofview.net. or by phone 800-347-5151. Time is up at midnight. but you can still make a difference if you take a moment and join the Truth Team right now. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Final half hour, certainly the final half hour of our Truth Team Week, but also the final half hour of our weekend edition. Kelly Shackelford with us for a little bit longer. And Kelly, again, we encourage people to give us a call, 800-347-5151. But I wanted to ask a question. What could happen if some of this goes the wrong direction? And even the letter that you sent out recently talks about the fact that we are in a situation right now where even with these victories, we have had some very significant threats to people in the workplace. A sportscaster who was fired for his statements about his faith when he ran for the U.S. Senate. A highly praised health administrator fired for expressing his religious views on marriage in a church gathering. A teacher fired for giving a Bible to a student who requested one. An education specialist intimidated by superiors because she offered to pray for a coworker, and on and on and on. And then, of course, the military ones. A highly decorated naval chaplain threatened with dishonorable discharge for counseling according to biblical principles. An Army Ranger chaplain threatened with disciplinary action. In some respects, even though we have more religious freedom than we've had before, there's still a lot of people, many of them running against Donald Trump, it looks like, saying you can have your freedom of worship. Whatever you do inside the church, that's just fine. But you cannot bring your religion into your workplace. And if people work 8 to 10 hours a day there, you can see what it happens to our religious freedom, right?
Yeah, that's why we sent that letter out. Again, if people don't get our letter and they want to, they can just go to firstliberty.org
Sure.
or go to pointofview.net and click on that and go to it. But it's this whole focus on the workplace. We didn't used to have to fight for religious freedoms in the workplace. It's where people spend most of their waking hours. And if they ever get control of this, then
the rest is over.
Yeah, because they control your paycheck. So, yeah, you can have religious freedom as long as you don't want to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's over, right? I mean, so most of the place where you spend most of your waking hours, you will have no freedom. Whether you're a Christian employer wanting to run your business according to your faith, or whether you're just a person who's working. But the good news is the law actually protects you. Whether you're a Christian employer or Christian employee, you do have religious freedom. It's in state law. It's in federal law. When the government's involved, it's also in the Constitution. So as you see on that list, it's victory, 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 victory. We've won a bunch of these cases, but we still have a number we're fighting because this battle is not over. We are in the middle of a battle right now about whether you will have religious freedom in your work. And that's really, really important. I mean, if you don't, that's disastrous for our country. So it's a battle we have to win. And again, you've heard of some of these cases. You just hadn't thought of it this way. Coach Kennedy, okay, fired for going to his knee after the football game and saying a 15 to 20-second prayer. If he can be fired for that, what do you think it would take for you to be fired based upon anything you do that even reflects that you have a faith? I mean, Melissa and Aaron Klein, Sweet Cakes by Melissa. I mean, not only, were they, did the government come after them? I mean, their business is bankrupted. So can the government now destroy your business because you don't have the proper views, in their view, about same-sex marriage? This is really dangerous, but it's a battle we're in the middle of, and we have to win, or else people will lose their freedoms.
One of the things we talked about even in our Texas Hour is there's this Texas Professional Protection Act, and this was an attempt to really just try to say we want to protect individuals, because if you're going into photography, look what happened to the Christian photographer in New Mexico, or you're a florist, look what happened to the florist in Washington or whatever. And one of the people said, we don't need this act. Christians just shouldn't go into those professions. We'll start adding them up. We're talking about photography. We're talking about florists. We're talking about bakers. We're talking about people in counseling. We're talking about teachers. We're talking about people in the military. You can see where this goes really quickly. And so, again, even though we're talking about a lot of positive things here, Brad, it doesn't take much to see with the change of an administration, with some judges going the other direction, we could lose the religious liberty that we now are starting to enjoy for the first time.
We need to keep an eye on things, guys. I mean, we really do. Our culture does not seem to be getting more righteous very quickly. It seems to be sometimes in many areas going the wrong way. And we need to push against that. We need to actually do something. Don't wait until it's too late to make the change. Join us right now financially. 800-347-5151. It's getting down to crunch time on the match. $7,500 remaining on the match, and we'll have that cleared up. But that's a ways to go. We need your help. We have open lines right now. 800-347-5151. Do you want to win? Do you want to stand alongside our friends who come on the microphone every single day with Kerby? Do you want to stand with them on the team? Please give right now. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net. You can give online at pointofview.net.
Kelly, one of the things you've said that is perhaps the greatest freedom threat, or the greatest threat to religious freedom, however you want to say that, is the LGBT issue or the transgender issue. And if you go back into Scripture, you know, male and female, kind of basic. And if indeed that goes the other direction, that affects all of this, doesn't it?
Oh, sure. I mean, look, a lot of these cases are about whether we're allowing something that's not in the Constitution to trump something that is in the Constitution. You know, I mean, there's nothing in the Constitution about gay marriage. There's nothing in the Constitution about gay and lesbian, about transgender, about any of these things. So those are just up to people deciding what they want the morality of, you know, their laws to be and what they think that is. But whatever somebody decides, whether it's a government official or somebody else, the Constitution trumps. And religious freedom was why this country was built. And so, look, there should be plenty of room if people have people have different beliefs about same-sex marriage right now in the country. Mm-hmm. But the thing every American should agree with is people have a right to have different beliefs about same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what religious freedom is all about. But there are people who want there not to be allowed to be people who disagree with them. It's a really dumb idea because you give the government that power, they will come after you next. So, you know, like the LGBT community that thinks it's just great to destroy somebody's business because they won't do a gay wedding cake. You think the government's not going to come after you because you're gay in the future if they have that right, that kind of power to go after you because they don't like what you believe or who you are? That's really short-sighted. And every American, liberal, conservative, I don't care who, a Christian, Jewish, atheist, should agree we all need freedom and we need to be protected to hold different beliefs. And some people are starting to lose that. And if they do, they'll regret it because it won't just be their enemies who the government's coming after. It will be them. And it's just a matter of who is in charge. So we've got to fight for these. We're in the middle of a pretty big cultural battle right now. The good news, as I talked about earlier, is I think we're on the verge of having the most religious freedom we've ever had in this country for those of us who are alive now. And why is God doing that? I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a revival. Maybe we're going to need it because it's going to get so ugly that we've got to have that strong protection for religious freedom. But great things are happening in the area of religious freedom, and we just got to make sure we walk in that area of freedom and exercise that religious freedom to make a difference.
And again, the first two articles we posted here have to do with the Chick-fil-A story in San Antonio and Buffalo. There's a good example. It isn't just that you believe in traditional marriage. It's that Chick-fil-A also gives money to Fellowship of Christian Athletes and Salvation Army, whores. And so, again, just illustration of the kind of battle that we're in, and that's why we challenge our listeners right now to join with us.
I don't know about you, but this is craziness. I mean, some of the stuff we talk about, it's like the solutions are so obvious, but they seem to escape an awful lot of people here. And there needs to be common sense. There needs to be a biblical basis for what we do and what we say and what we believe. 800-347-5151. You will get, I promise you, you will get the biblical viewpoint right here on Point of View every single day. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. In the next 20 minutes, Could we hear from you to check in with us right now with your very best gift so we could get this match challenge cleared up? Every dollar you give up to $7,500 right now is doubled, dollar for dollar. Thanks to some friends of the ministry that made that happen. We would love to get that cleared up by the top of the hour. 800-347-5151. Toll free, 800-347-5151. Do you agree with what we're saying today? Would you tell us that tangibly? 800-347-5151.
Kelly, I want to say thank you for coming in. I know you got to go on to your next engagement, but it always means so much that you'd come in and be with us today.
Well, it's a privilege to do it. I really appreciate Point of View, and I just encourage people, stay involved. There's more people who believe what is right than you know, and we're starting to win in many ways right now.
Thanks, Kelly.
That's all the reason to call right now. We have a break, and we'll come back with some final comments. 1-800-347-5151. Every dollar doubled. 1-800-347-5151.
There's yet another survey out showing that young people stop going to church after high school as they go off to college or start a job away from home. A 2017 Lifeway Research survey shows 66% of Americans stopped attending church on a regular basis for at least a year after turning 18. This is down slightly from 2007, when 70% reported they dropped out of church at that age. Most young people who cease regular attendance are not doing so because they no longer believe in God. The Lifeway survey, which is based on responses from more than 2,000 young Americans who attended Protestant churches, shows that the top reason for young people leaving church was that they moved into college. It's not that most rejected the church, stated Ed Stetzer, former executive director of Lifeway Research. Dr. Stetzer, now head of the Billy Graham Center at Wheaton College, looked at the data and concluded they simply lose track of the church and stop seeing it as important to their lives. Many, hopefully, will return. Another semi-encouraging survey has surfaced. A recent New York Times headline reads, "Support of LGBT rights drops among Republicans under 30." A large survey conducted by the Washington, D.C.-based Public Religion Research Institute shows a majority of this group thinks LGBT Americans should receive special privileges and accommodations, but the percentage is dropping, down 9% since 2015. It was one of the largest and most significant drops that we saw, Robert P. Jones, chief executive of the Institute, told the Times. Family Research Council suggests that young conservatives may have some buyer's remorse about this agenda that wasn't supposed to affect them. In the 3 years since the Obergefell Supreme Court decision that brought us same-sex marriage nationwide, we've seen it used as a weapon against free speech, religious liberty, and privacy. This shows we shouldn't give up on Gen Z. For Point of View, I'm Penna Dexter.
Point of View, Truth Team 360.
My name is Kwasi Agbota. I heard this for the first time driving through Alabama 5 minutes ago as I'm returning to Detroit. I was very touched. It stands out as timeless in its approach. I greatly appreciated that. I was moved by it, and so I called to give my testimony. And I was very curious about a lot of the same issues and timeless truth and contemporary application. So I thank God for what you all are doing, and I want to encourage you all that you are reaching perhaps a much broader audience than you might believe. God bless you.
Point of View. Truth Team 360.
I love that line, reaching a wider audience than you might not know, and that is certainly the case.
That's
I
true.
run into people all the time and say, I've been listening to Point of View for years. I say, well, that's interesting because I've never seen your name on a donation slip. They say, oh, well, I guess I really should donate to the ministry. Yeah, it would be helpful, but yeah, I didn't even know you were listening.
Well, the fun part of it is right now we're speaking to a vast majority of our audience who have never given a gift
very
before.
true.
So it's potential with the capital P here in the last remaining moments. Here's what's going on. I'm just going to lay it out straight for you. We're down to $5,940 remaining on the match challenge. We are down to the final about 10 minutes of the program, and listen how easy it would be to get there, to get the match cared for in the next 10 minutes. If just 17 of you call in at $1 a day or more, it'll be cared for.
Isn't
Whole
that
thing taken
something?
care of.
Yeah.
If just 5 of you call in at $100 a month for a year, it will be taken care of. Just 5 of you. And then there's all kinds of other math we could do, but the idea is for you to give the very best gift that you can. We've had several people upgrade. If you've given a single gift in the past, would you consider a monthly gift? Would you consider an add-on gift? Several have done that as well. We're simply asking everybody to do their part because, again, our audience is huge right now of people who have never donated to Point of View Radio. We only do this Truth Team twice a year, so we're dependent on you because we are listener-supported. We don't have subsidies. We don't have grants. We have Kerby Anderson and an entire wonderful team of people that do this every single day. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. 5151. Could we get 8 people to fill every single line right now?
That's what we're looking for. So would you just call right now? And we would certainly like to hear from you. And let's, if we can, hear what some of our listeners have had to say.
Point of View. Truth Team 360.
To all listeners out there, I've been listening for over 2 years. I just recently became a supporter. So I'm a proud supporter of Point of View, and so I would just encourage everyone who listens to this radio station and to your specific broadcast because it has been so influential for me, and I refer people to it because you put out such great information, and it's so thought-invoking and conversation-stimulating. It's great. So thank you so much, and I'll continue to support you guys.
But I've decided I'm going to give Point of View something this year because I think financially we're doing better. Point of View is one of, in my opinion, 2 or 3 places where you can really get this kind of information, and it is sorely lacking in our culture. And so Point of View, and there's a couple other programs, if we don't support them, I'm not convinced those messages will get out.
Thank you very much, and I just love your program. It's been an inspiration to me for many years. I just want to encourage all those of you and help keep Point of View on the air. We cannot afford to allow these stations to go empty. Please support Point of View.
Point of View. Truth Team 360.
You know, I might just mention those of you that do support this ministry probably received this email we just sent out where we quoted Jay Richards yesterday where he said the funny thing about this topic we're focusing on right now is the arguments and evidence are out there, but they don't filter their way down to the ordinary Americans or from there to the younger generation. Right. And so he says, and oftentimes the younger generation is not necessarily listening to long-form radios we talked about with Penna yesterday, but they maybe get it through online articles, social media, or even some of the radio clips. So you are supporting not only this ministry, but you're supporting and educating the next generation, which, as we've said, are a little bit off the rails right now on some of these issues. And that's why we are so dedicated to trying to provide in variety of formats, not just the radio program, the videos, social media, and much more, some of these very important talking points so that they'll really understand what it's all about. So that's what you're supporting when you give us a call at 800-347-5151.
5,000 $940 remaining in the match. That is it, and we've got it done. I don't want to leave any of this on the table, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you don't either. Every dollar you give is matched dollar for dollar, and the monthly gifts are especially critical because we count the entire year. If you give $1 a day, that's $30 a month. That's $360 for the year. It actually becomes $720 in our total. So let's not leave any of it behind. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we have a responsibility to defend biblical values in the culture. We need to be salt to do that. We have to explain what the Bible says about cultural issues. We may be the only Christian that these friends know. We may be the only book, quotes, that they can read. So this is what Point of View does. We do it very effectively. We equip our listeners to be salt in their community. We prepare you to speak the truth and speak within your circle of influence. It is critical, ladies and gentlemen, that we fund this ministry fully. We need your help right now. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. We have 4 lines open, so you won't get a busy signal. You do not have to have the money in hand, by the way, Kerby. This is a pledge for the future. A lot of people misunderstand that. So maybe a tax refund coming up later on. You could use a portion of that. Whatever. Be creative. We invite you to do that. But won't you do your part? Everybody standing with us. 100% participation. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net's the other way to get in. 800-347-5151. 5151.
Just before we run out of time, Brad, I want to thank you for coming in here because, like I said, Kelly Shackelford isn't sitting around saying, I need to figure out what I'm going to do today. And I know you aren't either. You just came from the National Religious Broadcasters, so we thank you for doing this.
Thank you for
But back to the point you made, and that is it's really a fraction of 1% of our listeners that actually have given. So right now, as Brad was talking to some of you that have been listening for years, and I've sat down with some of these individuals and I said, I know you appreciate the program, you quote from it and all that. But I'm pretty sure, I don't always look at the donations and everything, but I'm pretty sure you've never given. And they go, no, I never have. Well, why haven't you? I never thought about it.
That's right.
So we're talking to some of you right now. If you've benefited, we're just about out of time, and we certainly need to hear from you. Even though we'll go off the air, we'll still take some of those phone calls. And, of course, you can always go to pointofview.net and click on the button. I see that some have just finished a call and are hanging up, so they're ready for another call. There's others waiting, so we have some lines open. And if you've been waiting to the very end, this is the very end. 800-347-5151. Watching that clock tick here and recognize we got a minute left.
Could a few of you come in maybe with $1,000 here, $1,000 there, $5,940 to go, and the match challenge will be met. That is huge for our overall total, Kerby. 800-347-5151. Thanks for having me. I had a fun time here as usual. This is an incredible staff. I wish every one of you could come and visit here and see where your dollars go because they're so efficiently cared for. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151.
Again, I want to thank Andrew and Steve and, of course, the volunteers there that are actually waiting for your phone call. Some on the line, but many are still waiting for your call. So even as we say goodbye for this particular weekend edition, I hope that you will still consider giving us a call, 800-347-5151.
Still match money available.
And it is available to you. And even if later on you decide to call, you can leave a voicemail, but also you can just simply go to pointofview.net. It's available 24/7. I want to thank everybody who's been a part of this. It's been a great week. We'll see you back here on Monday.
Let's be honest. Many people who support socialistic policies believe it's the right thing to help our fellow man. What they fail to see is that the only ones really helped by socialism are politicians. The so-called Great Society began more than 50 years ago. And despite trillions of dollars, there's been no improvement in the poverty rate. If you support socialism to help people, it's not helping. Free markets, largely birthed from economic principles in the Bible, have done more to lift people out of poverty than any other system in history. You have a chance today to do something to really help people by spreading that message when you join the Truth Team. And we have other friends who will match whatever you invest, every dollar doubled up to $15,000. Join now online at pointofview.net or by phone 800-347-5151. Time is up at midnight, but you can still make a difference if you take a moment and join the Truth Team right now. pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries.